Strategy games on consoles? Don't make us laugh. Everyone knows we console players don't want to think, we want to hunt. Well, okay, maybe that used to be the case, but consoles have since matured considerably. Look, you can now even get a main Civilization game on PS4 and Xbox, the granddaddy of so-called 4X strategy, teaching new players all about tactics and brilliantly warped, definitely actual real-world history. Everyone remembers the Great Mongolian Aztec War of the 1800s, right? There was a time that many PC exclusives seemed like they'd just be impossible to play without some form of mouse and keyboard due to their intentionally obtuse systems and just too many menus. But that's not to say some console developers of old didn't try to bridge the gap regardless though, whether it was through motion controls for directing units or voice commands to bark orders. Drop the payload. I said drop the payload.
Paying now.
No, not pay now, Alexa. Stay out of this. I'm playing a game over here. Just play Despacito. But whether it's those innovators from consoles past or modern ports born from recent cross-platform friendliness, there really are some titles out there proving that sometimes it's okay for even couch gamers like me to stop and think and let all the others do all the fighting for a change. I'm Peter from TripleJump, and here are 10 console strategy games that were surprisingly good. Number 10, Ruse. Video games love a good self-descriptive backronym, don't they? You've got Fear, the spooky game, Thug, the skateboarding hooligans game, and Scat, the game about special cybernetic attack teams, obviously. What did you think I was talking? Oh, you've been watching too much Live League. Oh. And among this illustrious group sits Ruse, another fittingly named title that's all about tricking the enemy with some clever misdirection, or a ruse, if you see what they did there. This 2010 gem from Eugen Systems took a novel approach to your standard World War II battle sim, the action playing out on a tabletop map with a heavy focus on your ruses that ranged from revealing hidden units and hiding your own to providing decoys and even camouflaging entire friendly buildings. This created some brilliant twists and turns not always seen in traditional RTS matchups, especially in multiplayer, where hoodwinking your opponent made you feel like a mustache-twiddling mastermind. And the PS3 version was remarkable not just for its existence on console, but also for its use of the PS Move controller to help simulate mouse controls with a laser pointer, as if you were a 1940s general giving a TED talk. Clever stuff. Number 9, Civilization Revolution. Now we've finally got a big boy Civ game for all the consoles, it's easy to overlook that one other time the epic empire-building series tried to expand into the space underneath our tellies. But it's true, it happened, and despite many scoffs from serious PC-playing Civ veterans, 2008's Civilization Revolution was actually a very respectable title, thank you very much. Classic Civ mechanics like tile improvements, research, and economy were trimmed down and streamlined, but even with the cartoony art style, smaller maps, and games lasting hours rather than days, this was still Civilization at its core. The early game land grab was still vital, rival nations still needed putting in their place, and you still had to balance your city's production between resource buildings, military units, and, if you're feeling fancy, constructing grand wonders that are the envy of all your neighbours. Gandhi knows you beat him to Shakespeare's theatre and he isn't afraid to use his nuke, so watch it. There was even a version of this game for the Nintendo DS and a sequel for mobile, paving the way for on-the-go emperors to achieve great portable deeds like building the Great Wall of China on the Great Wall of China, or, just while you're having a poo, I guess. Number 8, Frostpunk. After all this death and destruction, it's time for a nice, chilled city builder to calm everything down. Now, what should we pick? Oh, maybe Frostpunk. That looks... Oh no, that's too chilled. Oh god, everyone's dying of frostbite. Where are the thermals? Oh my Christ! The cold, harsh environment of Frostpunk is what happens when a sophisticated city builder ventures north of the wall with Ned Stark's bastard, and the result is a brilliant yet brutal balancing act of scarce resources and desperate people, as the last remnants of humanity huddle around your giant blast furnace for warmth. Keeping these stragglers alive adds a personal sense of consequence to your actions, a rarity in most city builders with their faceless subjects, as your population here is very much a finite resource and every choice is a difficult one. Sending scouts to find coal for your fire, for example, is risky but necessary. Fail to keep the settlement heated, and citizens will get cold, get sick, and get dead. The heavy decisions of the campaign and story add even more grimness to affairs, with some people even resorting to actual cannibalism. Oh dear! We don't remember Bear Grylls doing that, but we're pretty sure it would still give you terrible diarrhea. Number 7. The Lord of the Rings Battle for Middle-earth 2. In the words of Saruman, a new power is rising. Its victory is at hand. We're talking, of course, about the mighty Tom Bombadil and his power to commit mass murder with his bare hands and sick dance moves. It's hard to pick a more perfect game genre to represent the Lord of the Rings, and the epic RTS clashes in Battle for Middle-earth 2 more than lived up to the likes of Helm's Deep, Minas Tirith, or Shorties vs. Tallies. This 2006 sequel introduced a grand campaign storyline, revamped factions, and a generous second breakfast's worth of heroes and powers. There's nothing quite like unleashing the mighty Balrog to ruin a pretty elven stronghold, or having the army of the dead rescue you from almost certain defeat. Not only was this 360 port of surprisingly great quality, but the controls were adapted well for a controller, proving it was indeed possible to do an RTS on your telly box. The only letdown for the 360 version was the missing Middle-earth game of Risk that was the War of the Ring mode, and the lack of custom heroes, of course, but we'd overlook these issues in a heartbeat if they'd simply reopen the servers. Come on, EA! Number 6. VALKYRIA Chronicles. Have you always been tempted by World War-era tactical games but been put off by their lack of anime characters and oversized weapons? Well, good news, because VALKYRIA Chronicles is basically Fire Emblem Battlefield Edition. This unique series provides a genuinely interesting take on the usual turn-based tactical war sim. Perhaps the biggest standout feature is that in each turn you can take control of a unit and move around in almost real time, letting you manually aim for the perfect headshot, mortar strike, or lance poke. Hang on, lances? In trench warfare? That's absolutely brilliant! We'd have won a lot quicker if we'd thought of that. The game's not quite World War conflict, fought across a battlefield of not quite Europe, means that the accompanying characters and story in each installment are a far cry from the typical gruff soldier tropes. Likewise, the distinct watercolour art style combined with the comic book booms and rat-a-tat-tats look superb. I mean, yes, we all know that war is hell and all that, but damn, it's never looked more beautiful and, dare we say it, serene. God, I hope I get conscripted now. Number 5. Fire Emblem Three Houses. Have you always been tempted by VALKYRIA Chronicles but have been put off by the lack of Fire Emblem? Well, you could always just try Fire Emblem. 2019's Three Houses was the series' debut on the Nintendo Switch, bringing the trademark tense battles, sweeping story, and crazy characters to a sort of home console for the very first time. Except, it's not really the first time, is it? The Fire Emblem formula was conceived back in 1990 on the Japanese NES, aka the Famicom, but famously wouldn't see a Western release for years, and even then it was only because raw Roy and Marth charmed the Western world in Super Smash Bros. Melee. Regardless, because of this 30-year heritage of tactical RPG excellence, Fire Emblem is one of the finest examples of strategy designed purely for console gaming. Everything from the battlefield combat to party relationships is easy to pick up but tricky to master, all while avoiding losing your favourite fighters to that dreaded permadeath. Maybe we should have a break and move on to something a little more innocent. Number 4, Pikmin. That's better. Pikmin, the greatest deception of them all. You see, what appeared to everyone as a pleasant little puzzle game with a title that sounded like someone from northwestern Europe attempting to pronounce this, where you guide tiny flower people around and pick up oversized trash, was secretly, behind this mask, a real-time strategy game all along. Gasp. Yeah, you've been rumbled, Nintendo, trying to make an accessible, fun version of a complex genre about tanks and knights and army management. This unique RTS puzzler sprang from the frankly horrifying Super Mario 128 tech demo in 2000, and Pikmin's debut as a GameCube launch title in 2001 spawned a cult classic series that captured the childlike wonder of movies like A Bug's Life or Honey, I Shrunk the Kids or A Day in the Life of Peter Austin. These lovably dopey-looking flowerheads essentially operated as your core soldiers, battling such fierce foes as Ladybird, Beaky Worm, Hungry Mutton Chops, and Duracell Bunny's Morning Droppings, the deadliest beast of them all. These pulled-from-the-ground troops had different colours matching their respective strengths, and the simple yet satisfying tactics at play made for a delightful gateway to the more cerebral offerings out there later on. Although, frankly, you can keep your elves and goblins now. We're happy with flower power. Groovy. Number 3, Stellaris. We have it on good authority that space is pretty big, like properly vast. Almost as vast as the options available in Stellaris, where you can build a galactic empire to satisfy your wildest sci-fi dreams. Embrace your inner Palpatine and become the Senate with a planet-destroying fleet of space Nazis, or be a peaceful science nation hunting anomalies. Or how about a race of spiritual pacifistic vegetables that just want to feed the galaxy? Just keep one eye on the hungry-looking vegan republic over there. Stellaris isn't just a conquest-heavy map-painting simulator, you see. Most of your goals will emerge naturally through personal ambition or via one of the many weird pop-up events. This is the first real grand strategy title brought to consoles, and while it may look like a terrifying mess of menus, they've somehow made it work intuitively through a gamepad. Sadly though, with this conversion comes compromise. The game launched on its old 1.7 build, running a couple of years behind its PC sibling, but constant patches are bringing it up to par, with the Utopia update, for example, adding traditions, ascension perks, genetic modification, and megastructures. Rejoice and marvel, fellow vacuum cleaner worshipping acolytes, at what is literally called in-game the Holy Dyson Sphere. It's not as good as a G-Tech Air Ram, to be honest. Number 2, Halo Wars. When Halo announced they were attempting a spin-off where you'd be hovering above the battlefield while other Spartans got to shoot grunts in the face, fans were angrier than your average Xbox Live lobby chat. But in 2009, Halo Wars silenced the critics who doubted Bungie could pull off an RTS on console no less, and it did that by being, well, just really quite good, to be honest. This groundbreaking title exceeded expectations on many fronts, with some well-balanced gameplay, an action-packed campaign, and most importantly, controls that didn't make you want to hurl your controller out the window and march an actual army to Microsoft HQ. The main story fit into the universe impeccably, featuring gorgeous cutscenes for the time. Likewise, the multiplayer was a tightly packed entity, making up for the lack of huge battles and playable Flood faction, with a clear rock-paper-scissors approach that had a good go at emulating PC titans like StarCraft, albeit on a smaller scale. While there have been plenty of attempts to domesticate the RTS, all the way from the Mega Drive classic Dune to Command & Conquer 3 on Xbox, Halo Wars marked a true turning point, and became perhaps the game changer for strategic alien blasting on console. With one exception, of course. Number 1, XCOM 2. Everyone knows controller junkies just love shooting aliens, and sometimes Nazis, but the 2012 revival of the classic XCOM series meant they could shoot smarter, with more tactical nuance, and usually with some RNG silliness that gets your most trusted soldier killed. And that's okay. Nobody said fighting off an alien invasion force should be easy. We can't all be Master McSpartan pants over here. When XCOM 2 rolled around in 2016, the gameplay had been refined, new features had been added, and waging brutal guerrilla warfare against extraterrestrials had never been more gratifying. The clean UI felt purpose-built for use with a gamepad without losing any depth or subtlety of play in the process. In short, everything was, as you'll see in a moment, sorry, we're just waiting. Everything was, okay, just a little longer. Alright, so the loading times on this game were notoriously bad, and the smattering of minor bugs stopped it from being an absolutely world-class port. But none of that matters once you've experienced the close calls, the heartbreaking loss, the sweet revenge, and the overwhelming vindication of hearing.
You have still managed to exceed my expectations.
I think I've got something in my eye. Oh, it's a bullet, because RNG killed me again. And there we are. Those were some real saucy strats and top-tier tactics, and all without fiddling around with a stupid mouse and keyboard. Ew. We've truly come a long way since 2-button controllers and 8-bit platformers, but which console strategy games did we miss? Let us know in the comments below. You can follow myself and TripleJump on Twitter here, and if you want to support the things you enjoy, then check out the rewards on our Patreon. Finally, don't forget to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. I've been Peter from TripleJump, and thanks for watching.